Hi, thanks for joining me today. It's Veronica, Senior Economist at TFI. We're filming on Halloween, so happy Halloween to all who celebrate. I hope you have lots of treats and not many tricks today. The first product we talked about was ammonia, which is one of the largest fertilizers in the nitrogen space, one of the three macronutrients that all crops need. Today we're going to switch to phosphates and we're going to talk about DAP. DAP is the largest consumed phosphate fertilizer globally and the second largest consumed in the United States. So DAP stands for diammonium phosphate. It is 46% phosphorus, 18% nitrogen. It's very commonly used. It can be used in blends or applied straight. It's produced by reacting phos acid with ammonia and then pumped into a granulation plant and reacted with additional ammonia to produce DAP as a solid granular product. It dissolves pretty quickly when applied to the soil. So we started with ammonia because it is a building block also for DAP. As we look across the United States and usage, really three regions stand out. DAP is very commonly applied in the Corn Belt. So when we look at DAP consumption, it's very heavily focused on the Corn Belt. So if we sort of divide the country into regions, and I'll define these regions, but 33% of use is in the east, north. We need to divide the US into different regions, and I'll define those, but it's very heavily focused on the Corn Belt. So the West Central region, which is defined as Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kansas, account for 37% of all DAP usage. Next in line, we have the East North Central region, which accounts for 33% of DAP usage. That's Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. And then the East South Central region, say that 2 times fast, is 16% of use, which is Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi. When you add those 3 regions up, that's over 85% of total DAP consumption in the United States. But of course, when we look at DAP, I said it's the largest used phosphate fertilizer globally. We kind of have to look both at the US and then at the larger global market. So you might be surprised, given how important this product is in the US, to know that only 5% of DAP production occurs in the United States and only 4% of DAP consumption occurs in the United States. So if it's an important product here, of course, but those are pretty small numbers in the grand scheme of the global market. So where is DAP being produced and consumed around the globe? Let's start with consumption, because that's a really interesting element. So when we think about consumption, 75% of all global consumption of DAP occurs in 2 regions. South Asia, which is led by India, accounts for over 40% of total DAP consumption. East Asia, led by China, accounts for about 35% of DAP consumption. So again, you look at those 2 countries combined, those 2 regions, it's about 3/4 of all DAP consumption occurs there. So now we think about where DAP is being produced in large volumes. 40% of DAP production occurs in East Asia. Again, think China. 16% occurs in Africa, led by Morocco. 16% occurs in South Asia, again, led by India. And then about 15% occurs in West Asia, led by 15% occurs in West Asia, led by Saudi Arabia. So already you're hearing that there's a big difference between where DAP is consumed and where DAP is produced. So already you're hearing a big difference between where DAP is produced and where DAP is consumed. So that also means that there are some countries that are much more significant exporters than others. So when we look at the export picture, things change yet again. The African region, again led by Morocco, accounts for over 30% of all DAP exports. West Asia, led by Saudi Arabia, is 26% of global exports of DAP. East Asia, China, is another 25%, and East Europe and Central Asia region, led by Russia, is about 12%. That means that over 90% of all DAP exports are coming from those 4 regions: Africa, West Asia, East Asia, Central Asia. What you didn't hear is North America. Certainly, when we look at fertilizer prices over the last several years, we have seen some significant increases in DAP diammonium phosphate, which we're talking about today, and MAP, monoammonium phosphate, which is 44% of all phosphate consumption in the United States is MAP. So when you combine those two products, big fluctuations in those prices have certainly been felt by growers, have been felt by retailers. We've seen significant increases and sticky prices, frankly, in MAP and DAP over the last couple of years. And I hope from this discussion about where MAP is being produced and who the major export players are, it's maybe a little bit more enlightening as to why some of those fluctuations might be occurring and how much the global market for DAP and MAP is influencing availability and price here in the United States. Thanks for joining me today. Next week, we'll talk about K, potash, the third macronutrient that all plants need to grow and thrive.